Royal Dutch Shell has a major problem. They are struggling to remain a viable energy provider in the wake of environmental disasters and financial downturns. After enjoying competitive superiority in the 1970s by branching out into providing coal and nuclear power, their future is now compromised due to a catastrophic oil spill that occurred in 2010. A rival oil company, British Petroleum or BP, allowed tons of oil to pollute the Gulf of Mexico in what is considered to be the worst marine oil spill ever, causing public opinion to turn against oil companies, and consequently, providers of hybrid and sustainable energy are gaining support. After another devastating incident at the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan, governments have become disillusioned with investing in oil and nuclear power, Shell's most vital draw cards. Shell's decision to diversify the company by investing in coal and nuclear power may have saved the business 50 years ago, but with battery technology making rapid advances, oil investment on the decline, and overall oil prices decreasing, it may be time for Shell to improve their scenario planning processes, or try an entirely new strategy altogether for directing their company.
Shell's current dilemma can be attributed to a variety of internal and external problems. A notable factor are the industrial disasters linked to oil and nuclear plants. This is an external issue well beyond the control of Shell, and the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico was caused by BP, a rival company. Nevertheless, these incidents are causing the media and the public to place more pressure on companies like Shell to maintain higher ethical standards regarding the environmental impacts of their activities. This means that Shell must uphold a higher level of corporate social responsibility than ever before. Related to this factor is the topic of sustainability, a critical issue given the nature of Shell's interaction with the environment. Another external factor affecting Shell is the support for environmental sources of energy, and how the government across the world are limiting their use of fossil fuel. This is one of the most crucial issues surrounding Shell and their ability to manage change and effectively lead their company and determine their success. Shell also faces problems on the international dimension, with countries such as Australia and China possessing coal seam gas that could take away Shell's competitive advantage. In summary, the main external factors threatening to destabilize Shell's position are the demand for higher levels of ethical standards, social responsibilities, and environmental sustainability issues in the international dimension. Shell must utilize their scenario planning techniques to predict and calculate the consequences of these external factors to their company. Shell has a wide assortment of internal problems ranging from leadership to strategy management. While Shell has little influence over the external factors such as the industrial disasters of other companies, the business lacks adequate control over future decisions, and using feed forwarding and feedback control mechanisms could help improve their image. Another issue is the quality of their strategic management. Shell is concentrating their assets on fossil fuels rather than diversifying their options. Gradually decreasing support for the types of energy Shell's investing in suggests that the company needs to adjust their current strategy or try a new tactic altogether. Shell's inability to recognize the superiority of hybrid and renewable sources of energy may be attributed to the resistance to change within the organization. Specifically, Shell may be held back by an aversion to innovation and new ideas. Shell has demonstrated qualities of a learning organization in the 1970s, but now has fallen into an inert status quo that threatens their competitive advantage. Furthermore, Shell is indicating serious issues in planning and forecasting. The company is assessing the current economy using contingency planning, when they need to employ the long-term tactic of scenario planning. This is additionally impacted by the quality of their decision-making and information gathering process. Shell's planning processes have been to analyse the economy and the position of other companies for an unnoticed variable that they can take advantage of. Shell needs to improve their knowledge management to become a learning organisation once more. Essentially, Shell's internal issues include weaknesses in their planning, controlling, information, strategic and change management, factors which they can and should work to improve.
The three main issues currently affecting Shell are the planning, information gathering, and strategic management deficiencies within the business. Firstly, Shell has been using programmed decisions to shape the course of its business. By assuming the energy economy would remain static and oil demand would not decrease, they have demonstrated a serious deficiency in strategic opportunism. Their decision-making process leaves much to be desired as well. They have identified their problem, a decline in oil demand, and have explored several viable options such as investing in renewable energy or promoting environmental responsibility. However, Shell has followed a behavioural decision model and selected a satisficing decision, choosing to double down on their original enterprise and maximise profits from oil and nuclear energy, even when it would be more prudent to cut losses and invest in different energy sources. By fixating resources on this escalating commitment, Shell is wasting resources and exacerbating the financial difficulties inflicted on the company. Another key problem is the quality of planning in Shell's management. For objectives to be effectively met, they must be specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and timetabled. While Shell's strategy may be specific and measurable, at least in terms of profits, it isn't achievable, or rather, isn't a goal that can be sustained in the long term. In this way, Shell's objective also fails to be timetabled, as there is no clear project schedule for their current strategy. It seems likely that Shell is also suffering a lack of effectiveness in their set strategic and tactical plans. Shell once demonstrated impressive foresight and initiative by diversifying their brand in 1970, but the company now seems trapped in the legacy expectation mindset that is preventing them from moving forward. This may be because the qualitative and quantitative forecasting undertaken by the company has been subject to poor human judgment and misinterpretation. The current scenario plan adapted by Shell also has major flaws. They have mistakenly identified the demand for oil as the major driving force in their scenario, when support for environmental sustainability should be the prime concern. Shell has made a tactical error in misidentifying the first step in their scenario plan, and have shifted their focus onto an irrelevant variable. Finally, Shell is having difficulties in strategic management within the organisation. The company is fixated on a concentration approach, rather than continuing the diversification tactic that originally granted them a competitive advantage. A gradual retrenchment on current operations may free up enough company resources to explore other options. What Shell needs to realise is that their oil and nuclear assets are entering the latter phase of the product life cycle. Changing opinions on the efficacy and sustainability of fossil fuels have pushed Shell's leading services into a state of decline, and at this point, a renewal of demand seems unlikely.
Planning is used to decide exactly what the organization wishes to achieve and how to go about it. Planning is the first step in the management process, followed by organizing, leading, and controlling. But it is the planning what sets the stage for the others. In this case, Shell needs to protect the environment, investing and developing renewable energy. Fossil energy is non-renewable and will sooner or later be depleted. Renewable energy resources are abundant, sustainable use, and pollution-free will surely become the main part of energy supply. In addition, establishing the necessary technical reserves can further reduce Shell's reliance on oil and enhance its ability to resist energy security risks. And Shell needs production plans, financial plans, facilities plans, marketing plans, and human resource plans. Creating scenarios helps condition the organization to think so that they remain better prepared for any future issues. Shell has adopted scenario planning. In fact, the first world oil crisis broke out from 1973 to 1974. Shell Oil Company didn't, like other oil giants, to adopt the strategy of expanding production capacity, focusing on major oil-producing countries, and centralized control. Instead, it slowed down the pace of investment in refineries and increased the amount of oil outside the OPEC region, exploring and delegating decision-making authority to improve managers' ability to adapt to local oil market regulations. These strategies enabled Shell to avoid heavy losses, survived the oil crisis,
Now I'm going to talk about the leadership theory. Leading is the process of inspiring others to work hard to accomplish important tasks. It is one of the 4 functions that constitute the management process. There are 2 theories applied by Scheer, which are visionary leadership and house path goal theory. First, we'll be looking at the visionary leadership. Visionary leadership brings a clear sense of the future and an understanding of how to get there. The 5 principles of visionary leadership are challenge the process, show enthusiasm, help others to act, set the example, and celebrate achievements. When the oil shock came in October 1973, after the war, Scheer was the only oil major prepared for it. Scheer's managers were able to plan for this eventually and apply this planning to the crisis following the Yom Kippur War, while other oil companies struggled. The second theory is the house path goal theory. This theory suggests that an effective leader is one who clarifies paths through which followers can achieve both task-related and personal goals. Path goal theory has also contributed to the recognition of what some theorists call substitutes for leadership. These are aspects of the work setting and the people involved that can reduce the need for leaders' personal involvement. In effect, they make leadership from the outside unnecessary because leadership is already built into the situation. Possible substitutes for leadership include: the first one is subordinate characteristics, the second one is task characteristics, the third one is organizational characteristics. Subordinate characteristics, it includes ability, experience, and independence. In this case, Pierre Wack was a planner in Scheer and had calculated the impact of possible rise in the oil price and a likely increase in the world's appetite for oil. He and his colleagues was well planned for the oil shake. He was acting like a leader.
First of all, I'm going to talk about the motivation. What is motivation? Motivation involves the level, direction, and the persistence of efforts expended at work. And there are 3 series of motivation. The first one is content theory of motivation, which can help us to understand human needs and how people with different needs may respond to different work situations, such as in our case, because of the Yom Kippur War and the increase of oil price and reduce the production, the whole society needs oil. This is the human needs. And second one is the process series of motivation, which offer additional insights into people given meaning to rewards and then respond with various work-related behaviors. And the last one is reinforcement theory of motivation, which is focused on the environment as a major source of rewards and influence on human behavior. I'll talk about it more later. As we know, the motivation must be because of the needs, and there are lower order needs and higher order needs. The lower order needs is about physiological, safety, and social concerns. In our case, to safety, government needs oil to support army to protect country, and public needs oil to their daily activities. And the higher order needs is esteem and self-actualization concerns. And about the need for social power, uses power in a socially responsible way, directed rewards group or organizational objectives rather than personal one. And the Shell company decided to remain to be only oil major. It keeps clear mind and do the right choice, adopt the diversity policy, and use wind and solar powers to arrive at sustainable solutions to energy needs. And goal setting theory is also related to our case. Task boosts can be highly motivating. Goals give direction to people in their work and clarify performance expectations. In our case, the Shell company, in order to survive, in that time adopted diversity, branching out into the areas of coal, nuclear power, and metals. And about the reinforcement theory of motivation, in 2010, the BP Macondo Deepwater Horizon oil well off the coast of Louisiana blew out, which created the greatest environment disaster in history of US. And as we know, drilling for oil in shallow seas is much safer and less technological difficult than deep water drilling. So now public opinion disagree with deep drilling, along with a general push to limit carbon emissions and oil consumption. We definitely should prevent the terrible histories comes again. Try to not affect our environment too much with human behavior.
First of all, I'm going to talk about planning. Planning. The company should create the scenarios of the impact of nature and renewable energy we'll have on the oil in the future. The second one is the general scenario of the mining and distributing energy sources while reducing the amount of carbon emissions. The last one is the assumption of the future is that the world is moving more to renewable energy and more environmentally friendly options. So begin to research and invest in renewable energy companies for the future. The second one is the motivation. Managers should let staff be a challenging task, set a higher goal, stimulate them potential through the challenges, and expect their gains and losses. The manager that should let staff see the blueprint for the future of the company and tell them what they will play in the future and let them know their contribution to the company or team strategy. The last one is the leadership. The enterprise manager tends to take a general view of the overall situation, consider the long-term interests, and communicate with the internal and external partners of the enterprise. The various decisions and the decisions they make are often not understood and accepted by all. This requires excellent persuasion. And as a manager, they must have the ability to handle interpersonal relationship properly so that different people can feel better. And then they can promote collective interpersonal relationship.
Challenging drilling and public opposition require Shell company to update technology and limit carbon emissions in order to meet leadership motivation and planning objectives. As you can see, here is the implementation plan, which involves 5 different tasks. Brainstorming of how to fulfill sustainable economy, creating scenarios of impacts of the increasing attraction to alternate energies, meeting with union delegates, delegating specific tasks for each department or unit, and giving result feedback and rewards. By the end of day 1, 5 to 10 senior managers will brainstorm of how to fulfill sustainable economy. According to the Delbeck theory on teams, this policy will stimulate creativity in team decision-making and also the generation of initial plans. However, it also exists group think tendency and resistance to change attitude. Shell company will focus on the creation of scenarios of impacts of the increasing attraction to alternate energies, such as wind and solar power and other renewable energy. This policy should be taken by senior managers within 3 days. It helps the creation of alternatives and contingency plans, and also the improvement of focus, flexibility, and action orientation. In the following 7 days, the CEO and COO of Shell company will hold a meeting with union delegates. This policy will help the policies followed by company and employees. With 1 month period, Shell company will make more efforts to delegate specific tasks for each department or unit. According to House Pascal leadership theory, good senior and department managers will help subordinates to progress along this path, remove any barriers, and provide awards for task accomplishments. Over the next 3 to 6 months, managers will give results feedback and relative rewards to related staff. It helps individuals to retain positive work outcome and receive extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. According to the motivation series on rewards and incentive remuneration systems as well as equity, some staff may feel unfairly treated and discomfort compared with other colleagues' rewards.